instance of that too,
right,
putting
yeah.
music and genre. But where would you put this record in the record store?
Yeah, right.
What section would you put it in?
And so this is a conversation that we have a lot of the time in the record store about any sort of like genre bending or experimental work, and this is where we have that nice rock/pop catch-all, right?
Yes,
and
right.
This is if someone came into the store and asked for an album like this, I would probably say, I don't know if it's appropriate, but we would probably keep it in the rock/pop section. I mean, I think it's pop songs,
Right.
and it's pop songs put through a bunch of different idioms, and I love listening to music and get to, as kind of professionally listen to music, and it's really hard to stick to one genre or one style when you're taking in so much excellent music all the time, kind of on a day-to-day basis. And I think that I kind of like, and that's part of the title of the album itself is a little tongue-in-cheek, but it's something that I actually saw on the back of an old dance compilation record from the 1950s, Popular Songs for the Heart, and thought it was appropriate for the types of themes that are on this album and tagged it on there. But I like calling it pop music. It's
I hear you.
Yeah,
no,
so,
definitely. Well, we're going to play another song. This is one of the shorter songs. There are 20 tracks on the album. The whole album clocks in around 41 minutes. And so there's like 13 songs that are ranging between 15 seconds to 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And I know you sort of have talked about how that's one of the things that you do is you write shorter songs.
Yeah, I do.
You don't always have to write a long song to get the same message across,
right? Yeah.
Or to still have a great song.
Yeah.
So we're going to play one of the shorter songs. This is called Softer Chew. Do you want to say anything about it before we play it?
This is one of the shorter ones, and it's again, I kind of think of it as a pop song, and sort of like the exercise here is distilling the types of songs that you hear on the radio, and that kind of like in some inexplicable way scratch an itch or touch your soul, and kind of distilling it down to its most basic component, which is a verse and a chorus and a guitar solo.
Here is Dylan Pyles. The song is called Softer Chew. All right, Dylan Pyles from the new record Popular Songs for the Heart, which is available on cassette through Manor Records.
It is, yeah.
And people can go to dylanpyles.bandcamp.com if you want to find out more about all of the music that we're playing today.
Right.
And Dylan, D-Y-L-A-N, Pyles, P-Y-L-E-S, at bandcamp.com. You grew up in the Kansas City area,
yeah,
right?
Totally. So
You're the oldest of your family?
Yeah, I have 3 younger sisters. So I grew up in the Northland and sort of played in punk bands and stuff up there, and it was, I've always loved Kansas City and kind of been pulled away a little bit and then ended up back countless times, and I really think there's like a special sense of community that I find like no matter like where I turn in Kansas City. So.
Definitely, and working at Mills Record Company is definitely kind of in a centralized location where lots of musicians go. Almost everybody that works there is in a band.
Yeah.
Like.
So everybody in and out over the past few years has been an excellent musician in their own right, and in an amazing, successful project, it seems. And so there's a lot of creativity circulating and a lot of inspiration, and also like nice like challenging sort of camaraderie in that, I think. So
definitely I talk a lot about record stores being community centers for music people,
right.
And that's kind of what they are. You
Yeah.
know, that's I know for me, I want to go hang out in a record store at least once or twice a week just to feel at home.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
And just to be around lots of music and to talk to people like you about music, and people at Mills are so helpful. And there's so much music to look at and to check out. you do a lot of the informational video pieces for like new releases and Record Store Day.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's just off the top of your head. How did you learn all of this about music? I call you a music scholar, but in so many ways you are.
And working at a record store and kind of taking that on as sort of a responsibility and a job too, I think has been helpful, which I love. It's not like a taxing job whatsoever. I mean, I've always been, I think as a kid, I was maybe sort of over obsessed with music in a way that just allowed me to absorb in kind of like a really formative period all different types, and grew up with parents who are, my dad's a musician, my mom's always been a music lover and really supportive of my dad playing music. And
is your dad in a band?
Yeah,
several bands.
Yeah, he's been in several bands. I grew up playing like guitar in his like country bar cover bands, and so a lot of I think you can hear that sort of influence like creep into a lot of the songs. It's that kind of like experience is a little bit inescapable, and I think just was able to like be in a space that encouraged exploring music and discovering music from an early age, and just being interested and open to everything. I think is I think of music as kind of like a playground, and so going and working, managing a record store every day is like I get to go play around for 8 hours,
right.
and pick up some things along the way, I guess. But I think it's mostly about just being truly interested and open to art and creativity and engaging with it on an intellectual level.
Did the idea of releasing this as a cassette release through Manor come through your association with Sean?
Yeah. So Sean
another coworker.
Yep. Sean works with me at Mills and has been over the past couple years sort of building a little record label and called Manor, and had a really successful festival over this past summer that brought together a lot of really great local bands and musicians over like a 3-day period. It was really nice, and he as far as like the record label side of things, just is interested in helping put together releases for local bands that have things that they're kind of sitting on and wanting to put out. And we're the cassette thing is, I personally really love cassettes, and I love buying cassettes from my friends' bands. I think it's a really cost-effective and practical way to hand off a physical token, like at the merch table or at a record store or something, without having to pay for the vinyl pressing.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, cassette comes with a digital download, and if you have a cassette player, great, toss it in, experience that way. But you can also kind of keep it as a sort of just like this physical token of the music. And enjoy the download as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
And cassette players are available, and I saw some at Mills recently.
Yeah, we got them, yeah.
And also there's some older used cassette radio mixes that, because I grew up taping off the radio all the time, not necessarily trying to plagiarize or steal music or anything, but just mixing together collages of sounds.
I feel like I was kind of at the tail end of that practice growing up, but I did the same thing, and certain songs still have like a specific radio jingle that comes on afterward in my brain, and it's like, so and that's that element of collage too is like so central to my experience of music in general, and I think it's a very it is influenced by the experience of listening to the radio or watching music videos or whatever, and so I think that element bleeds into how I create music and record it and orchestrate it as well. So
I hear you, definitely. Well, we're talking with Dylan Pyles, who is a Kansas City-based singer-songwriter, and also he is the record buyer at Mills Record Company, and just knows a whole bunch of stuff about music. And you can learn more about his music at dylanpyles.bandcamp.com. It's a brand new record out called Popular Songs for the Heart, and you did a release show for this last week at Minibar?
Yeah, we did the show at Minibar, yeah.
And there were other bands on the bill that night, but you were first up, right?
Yeah, so we played first, and it was one of those things where, could have made, a bigger fuss out of headlining a release show and like setting one up, but it was kind of like, hey, the tape's ready, the songs have been ready for a long time, and I'm also playing a show, so we decided let's just make that the release show, and so officially made it available that night. And so
well, congratulations on the new record, and thanks for letting us play some of the songs on the radio today. And we played Always Missing the Point last week on the show, and we're going to play it again. That was sort of the first track that you made available before the whole record was made available.
Right.
And that's a really perfect song. It's a minute 39, a minute 19, but to me it's a perfect song. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah.
How did all of these songs, I'm sure there's stuff that you decided not to include on the record.
Yeah.
How did you make the decision what to put in and what not to include?
Right. Yeah, so on that note, I think that there were 9 or 10 songs that I sketched out and left off. And I think that all of these started as a little sketch, right? Like I was kind of saying earlier, in one way or another. I kind of decided which ones I liked and which ones I wanted to pursue by adding elements, right? And like I said, a lot of that had to do with what materials I had access to at the time. So I think that a lot of these songs I've kind of shelved, not because I don't like them, but because I could hear a part that was a piano part or a synth part. I didn't have a piano or synth, so I'm going to put it to the side, and then maybe when I have other resources, I'll build a song. But this song, I think one of the reasons that it ended up being one of my favorites of these recordings is it is a guitar slammed with a fuzz pedal, and the guitar is actually recorded straight to tape, so there's no amplifier or anything here. It's just a guitar through a fuzz pedal and a cassette tape. And then the drums, like I said, came later, where I had like some bones of songs that I kind of wanted to put drums on, and then had access to like a kick drum and a snare and a ride cymbal, and so I threw it on, and I think that that's ultimately, like, this song to me doesn't need much more than that, but as I was like kind of putting the finishing touches on it, I also had some old kind of like noise tapes that I had made just from like some feedback loops that I'd created actually like 2 or 3 summers ago. And so I was listening back through them, and I was like, oh, I can sprinkle in a little bit here and a little bit here. So a lot of the like more psychedelic kind of ambient noise parts that you hear are on tapes that I had made well before this project even started, and put in a suitcase under the bed, and then revived for this project. So
I love it. Yeah. Dylan Pyles, thank you so much for being with us on Wednesday MidDay Medley. Hope we can have you back as a guest.
I look forward to it
soon, and we can play more of your music, of course, and talk more about music. Dylan Pyles just released his new 20-track album, Popular Songs for the Heart, released September 20th, digitally and also on cassette through Manor Records. You can go to bandcamp.com, dylanpyles.bandcamp.com. Here's the track we were just talking about, Always Missing the Point, followed by music from Radkey, who are going to be playing the North Kansas City Music Fest Saturday night, September 28th. They go on at 8:15 at the Vila Garage at 1403 Swiss Street, North Kansas City. Other bands on that stage include Hammerhead, Burwanger, Arson Class, Braggers, Killer City. NorthKansasCityMusicFest.com for more information about that. But first, Dylan Pyles, Always Missing the Point, right here in 90.1 FM KKFI.